start to the live coverage here of Ronde van Drenthe, the 25th anniversary race, and we run straight into a monumental crash here. This is basically in the entire peloton. Only a few riders just managed to escape this crash on the narrow roads, and look at that, the tangling of bikes and riders being shook up there, still on the ground, riders in the ditch. Yeah, this is quite a horrible way to start our live coverage here of Ronde van Drenthe. My name is José Bain. With me is Danny Christmas. And Danny, yeah, what should we say?
Well,
with Zoe
here. What can you say? We were so looking forward to seeing this edition of the Ronde van Drenthe. We know how hard the organisers have worked to try and get this this race on the road, and literally seconds before we came on air we saw this huge crash, which of course it's just going to take a while to try and regroup and see what the actual damage of this crash is.
Yeah, this race has overcome so many hurdles already. Yesterday's race, because Drenthe is always two races, was cancelled after 2 laps due to snow. And this morning, up until the final hour before the start, there was deliberation on whether we could actually race. And what they've done, we're not doing the 153 kilometer race. We're doing 6 laps around the Vamberg, the man-made hill we have. And then we go straight to the finish in Hoogeveen. But I wonder, Danny, seeing this and with so many riders still on the floor, I'm afraid that we might even neutralize this now. So this race is almost cursed.
Yeah, it's not been a great week for cycling racing in general, has it? But yeah, as you say, there's so many of the riders that are impacted. I wonder if we will get a replay of exactly how that crash happened, because it must have been a touch of wheels right at the very front of the bunch, because it was essentially all of the riders that have been impacted there. And we're just trying to get some shots now of the few riders that weren't impacted by that crash.
Yeah, it was just a few seconds before we went live here, and I was just listening to the countdown basically, and then everything happened. And this is all that remains basically. We have one rider for Trek Segafredo. I do think it's Eleanor Backstedt there. It is indeed one rider for AG Insurance. This is, I think, Maaike Bogaert. Looks like we might have Lily Williams there as well for Human Powered Health. But yeah, are they continuing to race? There's a big group coming back right now. And it all comes down, Danny, on whether there's still enough ambulances in the race. You know, if there's 2 or 3 or 4 riders who need to be escorted out of the race by ambulance, that means that the race is not protected by medical services anymore. And that is a reason to say that we cannot race on. So there's a lot of deliberation, I think, now on the Commissaire's channel on what to do. Are we just going to race on? Are we going to wait? It's a really sad start to one of the best races of the year, and you've done it a few times, and you have a little bit of a hate-love relationship with the race, don't you?
Well, yeah, let's just say racing in this part of the Netherlands wasn't the racing that I looked forward to the most in my cycling career. But yeah, you can see that the riders that are in this front group that did escape that horrific crash, the impetus has really come out of this group. They're not really pushing on. I guess they're also kind of waiting to see what the race situation behind them will be. And, you know, no one wants to take advantage of such a horrible event that happened, but you know, it is actually, you know, most of the major teams are represented in this group up ahead, which, you know, no one would have imagined that as we came on air that we would have had such a small group up the road due to such a horrendous crash.
One of the riders for Team UAE, we have basically all the big teams here, Danny. All the big World Tour teams are represented in the race, of course, with some smaller teams from the region, including the GT Crush Rebel Lease team. That's the new name of the team. We have Parkhotel Valkenburg, Biscaya Durango, the team from the Basque Country. You know them well. And also the ZAV cycling team. Those are the quote-unquote smaller teams. And then, yeah, of course, you've got Ceratisit, AG Insurance, technically not World Tour teams, but yeah, they do have the same level, I should say. But it's always great for these smaller teams to ride a World Tour course as we go to the infamous and dreaded Vanberg again.
Well, some of us quite like the Vanberg, so but yeah, as you can see, the riders are just starting the lower slopes of the Vanberg now. So this section is around 500 meters in length, and the last 150 meters of it is on cobbles. The riders will then descend for around 400 meters before it kicks up again, where we will see on this time round we will have an intermediate sprint.
It's Lotta Hentela representing the AG Insurance team. Human Powered Health is represented by Marjolein van het Geloof. So those are some of the riders in that first group, but a group of about 20 riders, 25 riders trying to come back now after the Vanberg. You can see the, I don't know the English word for that, the incinerator. Is that what it is? Yeah, the rubbish incinerator. I should have looked that up, shouldn't I? In the background, because as you might know, as a lover of cycling and women's cycling, this is a man-made hill. This part in the northeast of the Netherlands is as flat as a pancake, apart from the 44 meters Col du Vam, and that is where we are racing right now. So it's basically a rubbish tip, isn't it? And they covered it with tarmac, and it's a mountain bike park. There's sheep as well, not on the road, but they're somewhere behind a barrier. And there we go, down the hill. Can you explain, Danny, what makes this such an interesting course? Why is this Vanberg so? Yeah, we're going to return here for the European Championships as well. Why is it so interesting for racing?
Yeah, I think it really obviously breaks up the typical Dutch racing that we see when it is just pan flat, and putting in those little punchy climbs that we have on the Vanberg, it really makes the racing interesting, especially now that they've put some cobbles on the Vanberg as well.
Julia Bergström, the Swedish rider there, also across the Vanberg. 62 kilometers to go, meaning that we just did 32, my quick calculations, and then this should be the second time up the Vanberg?
Yes, that's correct. So we have an intermediate sprint at the top of this ascent of the Vanberg, and the next time up it will be exactly the same point, but we're going for a Queen of the Mountains points.
We have a rider from FDG Suez there, Marjolein van het Geloof here for Human Powered Health, Eleanor Backstedt for Trek Segafredo. I think it's Caroline Swinkels for Jumbo-Visma.
Yes, it looks very much like the style of Swinkels.
That is that first group. Nice shot here. There's basically riders everywhere on our shot right now. Left, in the middle, on the right side. But they are continuing to race, and it will take a little bit of time before we end up at that same spot, because the lap is 14 kilometers. So hopefully the road has been cleared, and the wounded have been tended to, and that the injuries are not that bad. Normally, Danny, this race includes cobbles. Are you happy that they are not in there? Because, yeah, with this weather and in the woods, the roads just don't dry, don't they?
No, that's right. And I think, the mere fact that we've actually got some racing today is, testament to the huge amount of work that the organisation have put in to try and make a safe race for us, which, when we've seen shots of some of the roads in the area where it's just been completely covered in ice over the last few days, that the fact that we have racing, albeit on a very much a reduced lap, I think really shows, as I say, the work that's been done by the organisation to try and put on this great race. So yes, of course, we would have loved to have seen all of the cobble sections that we would have had earlier on in the race, but yeah, of course, I think we'd much rather see the race of a 14-kilometre lap than the riders having to risk some of the more dangerous roads.
That was actually decided yesterday night after the snowfall here in the northeast of the Netherlands, and it's the UCI commissaire, the organizer, the 82-year-old Femi van Issem, a rider representative, which is Maaike Bogaert of the AG Insurance team, and also a representative from the teams, and that is sports director Anna van der Breggen. I think this is one of the few races that that she hasn't won, isn't it?
There's not too many, is there?
It might be one of the few that she hasn't won. Of course, the record holder here, we have an image. Yeah, it happened all the way at the front of the bunch. We have some riders, of course, who had to steer all the way to the left. We see Taylor Wiles there in that ditch all the way on the bottom of your screen. And the two groups are getting together. Yeah, the record holder here is Marianne Vos. Three times in a row, actually. 2011, 12 and 13. And the past 2 years, actually, it was Lorena Wiebes. So she can join that now group of one with a triple victory and also a hat-trick, 3 in 3 years. And if we look at the start list, of course, she rides with number 1, Danny. She is the out-and-out favourite. But before we had this crash and a completely different situation, because we don't know where Wiebes is at the moment, who were your favourites? Who were the names that you highlighted with your impressive array of highlighters?
Well, the highlighters might have gone out of the window a little bit when we were expecting to have you know, a much longer race and one where we were potentially looking at the wind playing a real key part in the race. Of course, now that it's been reduced down to 94 kilometres and 6 ascents of the Vamberg, it actually really changes the dynamic of the race. And it's something that I was thinking on the way into the studio here. It's like, this is quite a cool concept whereby you announce the riders that you're going to have race and then the organisers just change the lap. Are the teams now thinking, oh, wish we'd brought so-and-so to this race, they would have been perfect for this, you know, the punchy climbs of the Vamberg. So it really does change the dynamic of the race now that we've gone from it being just a complete flat race with 3 ascents of the Vamberg to much more of a punchy, almost like a Kermesse style race. So yeah, a few more riders would come into the mix, but of course, yeah, we don't know where they are on the road, or even if they are still on the road, you know, they might just have had to abandon the race. So
but Wiebes is in this group.
Yeah,
she is in this group.
See.
The European champion is now getting back to that first group where we find Lotta Henselaar, for example, another sprinter. But there she is, Wiebes, cool as a cucumber in that rather fantastic jersey. I know it's blasphemy to say, Danny, but I like this one better than a rainbow jersey.
It's a very nice jersey. I think, you know, given the choice, most riders, you know, they certainly wouldn't turn down a European's jersey, but I think they probably prefer the rainbow jersey over it. But no, you're right. It looks beautiful and very crystal white almost. So it doesn't look like she's hit the deck too hard today, but has certainly been impacted by that crash nevertheless.
Let's also see if we can find another one of the pre-race favourites, Marta Bastianelli. There she is with 1-3-1. So that is 3 of my pre-race favourites now evading or avoiding that crash or back on the bike and back to the front. With Lotta Henselaar, she was in that first group straight away. We have Wiebes coming and we have Marta Bastianelli coming. So that is interesting. Marjolein van 't Geloof also a very fast finisher, but it looks like SD Works have avoided most of the crash. I think they are 4 in this in these two groups combined. Looks like nobody really wants to bridge across to that first group and really do the work. It's a little bit stop and go at the moment, but they will get back together and then we'll have a rather big peloton again. So we have spotted a few fast riders, but the final time of the Vamberg, Danny, is only 10 kilometers out from the finish line. Normally we would do an extra loop, we would cross the finish line and then do an extra loop, and normally everything came back together. Would a late attack stand a chance today?
I think it would, and you know, obviously it depends. You know, we've still got a good sort of 40 odd kilometres of racing to go before that point, but it very much depends upon the race situation at the time, and you know how many riders are represented in a move that might go later on, because obviously we've got a severely reduced bunch now, and it might not necessarily be the riders that any one team would like to still be in the race. You know, it might not be their leaders that have survived this crash. So yeah, we're going to have to see how these next kilometres play out, but it looks like we've still got some very big names still in this race, and some really strong riders to contest the final 58 kilometres.
Yeah, there's still a whole lot of racing still to come. There is, of course, a possibility that there's a third group on the road with some fast finishes, but yeah, they're not waiting. They're not waiting for that group to come back. The first group that has kind of merged together from that original 6 now to about 12, 10, 12. And then that group with Lorena Wiebes not that far back. We're on our way to the Vanberg. There we will have our first mountain point sprint. And Danny, this race, of course, is also known for its wide array of rather spectacular prizes that we hopefully will get to see in the awards ceremony. So sprinting for those mountain points is really worthwhile.
Yeah,
you can actually get yourself a deep fat fryer.
Yeah, spectacular is certainly one word that you could use to describe the prizes that are on offer. Yeah, I think random is perhaps a bit more accurate, but yeah, it's quite bizarre, some of the prizes that are on offer. But you can see now Anna Henderson from Team Jumbo-Visma coming to the front. She was looking a little bit animated earlier on, looking a bit frustrated with the group that they weren't working, knowing that the likes of Lorena Wiebes are in the group behind. She's very keen to keep this one going, because those riders behind haven't come into sight yet. You know, if this group can really get going, then they can potentially put some good riders out of this race.
Lovely shot here of the stork. It's actually quite a large colony of storks here in this part of the world. There's a stork station not that far from here, where you have a lot of pairs hatching their eggs. And it's not a very populated province of the Netherlands, Drenthe, so the arrival of storks has not really done anything to the amount of kids born. Do you have that saying in English? Because we say that babies come from storks.
Yep, they're delivered by.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, before people think she's like babbling randomly, in Dutch that is of course the saying that babies, yeah, anyways. We have 2 riders from SD Works. Lonneke Uneken is one of them, and I think the other one is Misha Bredewold.
Yeah, we can actually see 3 riders from SD Works in this group. But yeah, we're just try and get a look at exactly who are in this group, because obviously we have a number of riders that have suffered from crashes as well, so they'll be on their spare bikes, potentially on their teammates' bikes as well. So takes a while for the timing chips to catch up as well.
I think I have a good overview. We have 2 riders for Jumbo-Visma with Anna Henderson and Carlijn Swinkels. We have 3 riders from SD Works with Lonneke Uneken, Misha Bredewold, and the other one I have to identify might be Cecchini, but we'll have to identify her. Another interesting name in that first group is the young Dutch sprinter Elise Uijen for the DSM team. Of course, we were looking forward to seeing a battle between the likes of Lorena Wiebes, Charlotte Kool, Elisa Balsamo, Bastianelli, but Charlotte Kool sadly is ill and she had to cancel these 2 races. But Elise Uijen, of course, she just had her first pro win last month in Valencia. She is fast, she's the only representative of her team. This is our second group. We have Christine Magirus, meaning that we might end up with 4 riders there for SD Works. Quite an impressive situation. Also, Chiara Consonni, another fast rider there for Team UAE with a teammate.
That looked like her teammate Gasparini there as well. A really exciting young rider that I had actually put a quick bit of a question mark against today as a potential outsider for today's race. So good to see that she is back up on her bike.
And super versatile, Danny, because in that Tour of Valencia, she had four fifth places. So
yeah,
whether it was a sprint stage, whether it was a punchy stage, whether it was a mountain stage, she was fifth on all 4 days.
Yeah, it was a really impressive ride from her, and she ended up taking the young riders jersey off of the back of her really consistent performances there. So yeah, it was a real standout performance from Gasparini over in Spain.
We can see Lily Williams there with all the de-icing chemicals actually stuck on her bib shorts there. There was a little bit of a worry, Danny, because of course they had to quickly de-ice the roads, and it goes with a lot of chemicals. And riders, well, when they ride, I didn't know that before I started talking to pro riders, you do tend to get a lot of the stuff in your system, especially when the roads are wet. Can you explain that, Danny? Because luckily the roads are dry, but when it's wet, you do tend to get all sorts of stuff in your mouth. It's a bit of a filthy story maybe, but
yeah, I mean, when you're riding in wet roads, obviously you get a lot of spray coming up into your face, and it's often why riders get sick after a race with sort of stomach upsets, is because, you know, the roads aren't exactly too clean, so whatever's on the road is potentially flying up into your face, which obviously isn't the nicest experience to have.
Meanwhile, I'm also trying to highlight the riders in that first group. Of course, we have not mentioned the national champion of Austria, Christina Schweinberg. She's having a really good spring season so far. She's really impressive. She's really made a step up.
She has, yeah, as you say, the Austrian road race champion, and seems to have been really thriving in that Phoenix de Koenig team, really just going from strength to strength. And obviously now that the team has stepped up to World Tour, the riders will be getting more support. And you know, I think that the riders within the Phoenix de Koenig team were already, you know, very well supported, but now that they have stepped up to the World Tour, it just means that extra level of support that they will receive, as we're seeing more and more riders now just starting to make their way back into the race, and these riders are very much going to hope that the junction will be made to the front.
Corinne Lebecki is one of the riders there for the Jumbo-Visma team. Teutenberg, we have Hengeveld there, one of the promising young riders. This is Letitia Paternoster, also of course a fast finisher with a new team after spending her career with Trek Segafredo, and judging from social media, she's really enjoying herself within the Jayco Alula setting. And she had the most magnificent life hack the other day, how to peel an egg with a spoon.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was like I still have to try it, but yeah, she had a very special technique on how to do that.
Well, it's good to see riders achieving on and off of the bike, isn't it?
Yeah, Paternoster, of course, a very, very talented rider who had a little bit of bad luck in recent years. Of course, also very active on the track, doing the peloton races, scratch point races. I don't know if she's part of the team pursuit, actually. Very successful team pursuit there in Italy. We're back with our first group. The only rider I have yet to identify, Danny, is the rider for Uno X, because she's wearing a jacket.
Yeah, it looks very much like the style of Suzanne Anderson. Has had a lot of success in this race as well. Very successful Norwegian sprinter, Suzanne Anderson. It looks very much like the style of her. So yeah, we'll just wait for confirmation of that.
So this is our first group, doing a quick head count, 7, 8, 9, 12 riders, I think. Look at the flag there. There's not for Drenthe, it's not a huge deal of wind.
For the rest of the world, it's blowing a gale, but for Drenthe, no, there's no wind at all. So,
and on the left side, we see the Vanberg on the horizon, and this is basically where the crash happened. So there was a little bit of a crosswind there, and well, if you just pass the farmhouse, for example, then all of a sudden this can hit you, and you lose a little bit of balance, touch wheels, and then the entire peloton goes down. I think that might have happened on this road.
Yeah, and as you can see, the road isn't particularly wide, so if a crash does happen at the head of the bunch, as you can see, riders almost kind of touching each other there, that if one person goes down right at the front of the bunch, the speed would have been relatively high because the riders are all trying to position themselves coming into the base of the Vanberg. So if riders go down at the front of the bunch, it's just a domino effect that goes throughout the bunch. And as you can see for the road there's no escaping it. It's in the ditch or nothing. So you're very much stuck behind then. And unfortunately, as we first got images of the race today, it was of riders on the deck. But you can see some epic scenes over on the Vanberg today that we don't often get to see it covered in snow with a race going on. So brilliant to see today.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sunny day, but look at the flag. There's always somebody who is a supporter of Jaco Alula, I'm sorry. Always supporting the race with an Australian flag. He's on top of the hill again, and we can see that there's a bit of a crosswind there. A couple of years ago on the top of the Vanberg, there was a rather freak accident as well with Jolien Dore, wasn't there, on top of that hill?
Yeah, it was an incredibly windy edition, and I'm just trying to think what year it was, because I was riding in that race. It was either 2018 or 2019, but yeah, I distinctly remember Jolien Dore being blown off of the top of the Vanberg in a gust of wind, and I think it was her collarbone that she broke on that occasion. So it's not that much fun when it's particularly windy either in Drenthe, but yeah, today we're looking at around 13km/h wind, so whilst it's not the nicest to ride in, I don't think it will massively impact on the race. Of course, if you're exposed to that wind, it makes it an awful lot harder, but I don't think we're going to end up seeing the wind splitting these groups up.
No, she's a former winner as well, Jolien Dore. We already mentioned, of course, Marianne Vos. Other former winners, Emma Johansson won here. Lizzie Dijkenen won it in 2014. Chantal van der Broek-Blaak. Amelie Diederiksen, I think it was actually in her World Champions jersey. Amy Pieters won here in 2018. It's the same parcours as she got her national title. Bastianelli in 2019. 2020 it was cancelled just a few days before the race actually. And then the past 2 years, Lorena Wiebes. So we have former winners on the start line in Bastianelli. We have Diederiksen as well here, Lorena Wiebes and Jolien Dore. But she's not behind the wheel of the team car today. It's another sports director for the AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep team. Here we go again. This is that group with Lorena Wiebes. That second group,
which is significantly swelled in numbers since we last saw it. So you will see that a number of riders have come back to this chasing group. So there's going to be some severe firepower in the group behind now.
Nick Hengeveld, a young rider there for Team DSM. That basically goes for the entire team. I think the oldest rider is possibly 25, 26, but they're pretty successful already. Team DSM, of course, with Charlotte Kool, who beat her former lead sprinter in the UAE Tour. That was pretty spectacular. And also Elise Auer in that Tour of Valencia that we just mentioned. We don't have time gaps yet, but I think this is about 25, 30 seconds, no more than that.
Yeah, it's not too far on the road, is it? But it's been kind of agonisingly close for around sort of 10, 15 kilometres now. So the gap hasn't really closed down all that much. Of course, having so many of the top teams that are represented in the front, the question then is who will do the chasing behind. So, you know, that's perhaps why we're not seeing the gaps coming down quite as quickly as you would imagine.
Luckily, the roads here on the descent, which is a pretty fast descent, are dry. The maximum gradient of the Vanberg is 15%. But they cleared it. There's just a little bit of water there. It's not ice. It's not black ice. It's just some water there on the inside of the corner. So, of course, safety is paramount here. They did a last recon of this lap before the start, and it was deemed safe enough. Here we are climbing again. So we basically climb it twice.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting climb, isn't it? The run into it. So we have 500 metres where the riders climb up, with the final 150 metres of that being on cobbles. They drop down for 400 metres where we just saw that somewhat technical descent, and then the final ramp up to the, which this time round is going to be a Queen of the Mountains point, is around 400 metres.
There we have confirmation chasing group 1 at 25 seconds. This is the first group, the group with 3 riders for SD Works. And that is that group at 25 seconds. This is the group with Bastianelli and Lorena Wiebes, who I just saw made a really solid impression on that fun climb. She didn't really seem impressed at all.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen in recent weeks just how strong Lorena Wiebes is on the climbs as well. You know, looking back to Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, when Lotte Kopecky, her teammate, was up the road, but she was riding extremely strongly, going up the Vanberg, covering the moves there, looking cool as a cucumber. So yeah, these small punchy climbs certainly won't bother the likes of Lorena Wiebes. But of course, she's behind at the moment, so
she still has that. She still has 25 seconds to overcome, and she has got some teammates here. Wouldn't you think that the instructions from the team car, because we did see Misha Bredewold leading the group just a few minutes ago. Ooh, a lot of water there on the road. The instructions from the team car would be like, do not get involved with this first group, and maybe even drop back to get Lorena back to the front.
It's a really interesting scenario, isn't it? Because obviously Lorena Wiebes, we know how fast she is, but within this group of, what are we looking at, around 12 riders, we've got 3 of them from SD Works, so they can certainly play the numbers game within this group. So it's almost a win-win situation for them, you know, having numbers in the front, and if that doesn't work, that they have perhaps the fastest sprinter in the race behind. So yeah, it's a tricky dilemma almost for SD Works, because obviously if they bring back Lorena Wiebes, then they actually bring back around, what, sort of 25 other riders into the race, including the likes of Marta Bastianelli, Chiara Consoni, Gasparini, all in there, all with really fast finishes. So yeah, it's a dilemma that I didn't think we would be debating just before we came on air.
This is the group with Bastianelli and Consoni doing the work. We haven't really discussed Trek Segafredo just yet. Normally, of course, this would be a fantastic race for the likes of Ellen van Dijk, but she had a very happy announcement earlier this week. I really love the graphics that Trek Segafredo did on her time trial bike. They had a little, yeah, how do you call that? A cart?
You're asking me for the exact word of it. Yeah, it was kind of a baby carrier, wasn't it?
A baby carrier, yeah. Just hooked onto her Speed Concept time trial bike, indicating that she is pregnant. She and her boyfriend Benjamin expect their first child in September, meaning that she won't race this year, and she has set her sights on returning for the Paris Olympics. And she says, I've got 11 months. We do know how it's done. Of course, Lizzie Dijkman has set a fantastic example together with her partner, Phil Dijkman. They have a plan. And Ellen van Dijk said, that's the most important. We have a plan, the team doctor. We have talked this through. It is possible. And, well, look at what Lizzie Dijkman did after having Orla and winning Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah, somewhat incredible, isn't it? So, yeah, but obviously it's something that we're seeing more and more of now that the Women's World Tour is developing to support maternity cover as well for the riders. So, yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant for the riders that are looking to be able to start a family.
They will not replace Ellen van Dijk. They have the option as a World Tour team to call in a replacement for this season. I had hopes they did, and then maybe would call somebody like Chloe Hoskin, for example, to return to the team. One of the riders, one of the most prominent riders, left out after the B&B Hotels team. Never materialized. But I started with Trek Segafredo because I was looking if I could see Balsamo. I do see Loretta Hansen there, but I don't think I see the Italian champion in this group.
No, I was just thinking that myself, that yeah, we haven't had a shot of Elisa Balsamo at all, so I don't think she's in this group, the Italian champion who started the day as one of the big favourites for this race. So yeah, that will be very disappointing for Trek Segafredo, and obviously they have up front Eleanor Backstead representing the team, so I'm sure that she's going to do a great job for Trek Segafredo and will almost relish that opportunity to go for a result. We normally see her in that domestique duty, so great opportunity for Eleanor Backstead.
It's pretty clear that Eleanor Backstead has not participated in the chase whatsoever. She's always been in the last few wheels. Of course, she doesn't have to. Her team is behind. At least I saw Loretta Hansen. I thought I saw Sanguinetti as well. And then, of course, we're looking out for the Italian champion. As a good sprinter, she's, of course, really, really good at hiding. So she might be hiding in that group. This is the third group who also can still come back. This is a good shot of the team. Yeah, there she is. Balsamo is there. She is in this. She's in this group on the wheel of Loretta Hansen. Yeah, Balsamo is in this second group. So luckily, no injuries or whatsoever due to that fall for the Italian national champion. Also not participating in the chase whatsoever is Marjolein van het Geloof, and that makes me think that the priorities at Human Powered Health are not for a sprint for her, but possibly for somebody like Pikulik.
Yeah, that's potential. Also in the Human Powered Health team, we have Alice Barnes, the former British road race champion, who's also had success in this race in the past as well. So it could well be going for her. But that first time up the Vanberg, we did see that Maya was coming into some difficulties on the climb. So it looks like that she will be quite happy to save her energy. But of course, for these riders that, you know, they're the only representative of their team, when you've got 3 riders from SD Works, it's what kills the motivation to really try and drive the pace on.
I'll give you the names of our breakaway. In black, we have Elise Uyen, 2 representatives for Team Jumbo-Visma, Anna Henderson, Carlijn Swinkels. 3 for SD Works with Misha Bredewold, Lonneke Uneke and Femke Marcus. We have Eleanor Backstead here, Marjolein van het Geloof. Maëlle Grostet is the representative here for FDG Suez. We have Susanne Andersen for UNOX and for AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep. Very long name. Oh, well, it's Lotta Hentela and Christina Schweinberger for the Phoenix de Koning team. Those are the riders. You can conveniently also see them on your screen right now. I just should not have bothered. But we don't know that, of course. We don't know that. An interesting name in this first group is, of course, Lotta Hentela. We were just discussing motherhood, Danny, and she is a mum. She had her son last year in January or February, I think, Olavi, and her first race back, it was a 2nd place. That's what you call a comeback. Yeah,
it was phenomenal seeing the way that she was able to ride in Setmana Valenciana over in Spain back in February. 2nd on the first 2 stages there. That they were some hectic finishes over in Valencia as well. So, I mean, one thing that obviously you know what your form is like from training, but when you get into a race situation, it's a very different type of fitness that you need, but also you know, we know what a great sprinter that Lotte has been in the past, and so, you know, bunch positioning is never normally an issue for the top sprinters. But of course, when you've been out of the bunch for quite a while, there's always that question mark kind of hanging over, particularly for a new mum, being, you know, are they still going to have that kind of killer instinct when it comes for, you know, going through gaps that perhaps don't exist, or, you know, really asserting your authority in a sprint? Will being a new mum change that kind of dynamic in your head? And I think Lotte Hentala answered that question very well in her first 2 outings, finishing in second place to the former world champion Elisa Balsamo.
It is, of course, not a thing that is only a thing with female riders. We also know from male riders that after they became dads, they sometimes had a split second of extra decision time on, am I going to go for this gap or not? So of course it changes your priorities if you become a parent. It's interesting to see that Bastianelli is doing all the work in that chasing group. They lost 10 seconds since the last time we went up the climb. 10 seconds. It's not as if they quickly closed this gap right now.
No, and it's somewhat surprising, isn't it, when we look at, you know, the size of the group, but when we see that it is predominantly Team UAE ADQ that are doing the work on the front there, that, you know, when they've only got a couple of riders that were pulling versus multiple riders in the front group, yeah, we're starting to see that gap going out.
And they get no help whatsoever from the UAE team. A little bit of Jaco Alula. Of course, SD Works think, okay, yeah, we got another fast finisher in Lonneke Uneke in that first group. And she's a local rider. She is from this region. So, yeah, of course she wants to go for that. But I do wonder why Trek Segafredo is not more involved in this chase. They only got Eleanor Backstedt. And when it comes to a sprint, Eleanor will not beat the likes of Lonneke Uneke or Lotte Hentala. I would think that the 3 riders that Trek Segafredo have in that group would participate in the chase a little bit more. There we go.
Yeah.
It's not 35 seconds. It's not 35 seconds. Case closed. But the fact remains, Danny, that Bastianelli herself did a lot of work in closing that gap. And Lorena Wiebes did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Lorena Wiebes is not going to be closing a gap to 3 of her own teammates. She's going to take a free ride when others have shown willing to that. But yeah, it looks like the junction is just going to be made any moment now. We say that, but it's lined out in the gutter at the moment. So this is full steam ahead for both groups, and that chasing group is getting agonisingly close. They cannot let the impetus go out of that group now, because sometimes you can get really close to closing the gap, and it's those kind of final 50 metres, and then suddenly the gap shoots out again. Particularly in this section, it looks like we have got a little bit of crosswind there, so the riders are being buffeted from their left-hand side.
Well, just ask Tom Pidcock how you can defend a 6-second lead all the way to the finish line. But no, the junction is being made just before we go up the climb again. Here with Atte Noster. We have Guazzini here as well. Balsamo, there she is on the red bike. We have Letizia Borghesi, and there we have the junction. Corinne Lebecki, of course, a fast rider as well. Bastianelli, although you must wonder how much that chase has taken out of her. But Danny, the race has also completely changed. We have the rider going straight to the front again.
Looks like Corinne Lebecki just trying to link up with her teammate on the front there, Caroline Swinkles. Now is the opportunity where the riders that have just made the junction really just kind of come to the front, because we will be coming back round to the Vanberg shortly. So again, whilst this group is relatively small in size, you still want to be positioned well coming into the base of the climb.
What I wanted to ask you, of course, the race from 150 plus kilometers is now just 94. Does that also change the team tactics, the race plan?
I think, you know, to be honest, 94 kilometres, yes, of course, it's a much reduced race, but it's still a relatively. It's going to be a very hard race, is essentially what I'm trying to say here, is that when the race is shortened in terms of the distance, you end up having the speed is typically higher kind of throughout, or the intensity that the race is run at is often pretty high. So obviously, you know, we didn't expect to have 90% of the field on the deck when we started, so that certainly changed the race plan of pretty much every team on the start line. So now that we've got this relatively large group together, it's kind of right, this is the race situation now when we race with what we've got. So the teams will have been communicating with each other after the crash, who was impacted by the crash, what group people were in on the road, and the sports directors in the car behind, trying to piece together, you know, what will the tactics be now moving forwards, what is our best opportunity to get a result in this race. And so now that we've got this relatively large group that's come together, it's kind of right, now it's time to go racing from what we have left.
Most definitely. 42 kilometers to go here on this, well, not so white province of Drenthe anymore. It was much whiter yesterday when there was about 3 to 5 centimeters of snow. This is our third group. It would be nice to see if we have some riders. We overlooked some riders who have a fast finish. Somebody like Elena Cecchini will of course work for Lorena Wiebes, but she had some good results in the past. Shari Bossut might be in this group. There's 2 Canyon SRAM riders at the front right there.
Yeah, Shari
what
was
other riders could we have missed?
Yeah,
maybe?
I was going to say that Shari Bossut was one of the riders that we saw very much impacted by the crash. She looked like she was one of the last to leave the crash site. So yeah, that would be a massive shame for the Belgian rider, because obviously coming into this race on good form and would have been one of those pre-race favourites for this race. But it looks like her teammate, local rider Maaike van der Down, is in this front group now. She was one of the riders that was in that second group that has just made contact.
Also a local rider, Maaike van der Down, comes from a town, I think roughly 25 kilometers from where we are right now. It's always very special to race on home roads, of course. And this is one of those races in the northeast of the country. Basically the last one since the Bloeizone Friesland Tour, formerly known as the Healthy Aging Tour, is no longer on the calendar, sadly. Was always in the Strade Bianche weekend, which is a really difficult weekend to get teams. And it's no longer on the calendar, sadly. But we do return here in August in September. The World Championships are in August. The European Championships are in September, and it will be on this particular course again. Here we go. A lot of work done by SD Works. Also a lot of work done by Jumbo-Visma. They have 4 riders in that first group. With Becky, we have Henderson, of course, Noemi Rück, and Caroline Swinkels from the original breakaway. At least 4 riders. And yeah, this is of course a sight we are used to in women's cycling. Christine Majerus at the front of the peloton.
Yeah, it's a very distinctive style, isn't it? And yeah, of course, just always present in that Luxembourg national champs jersey.
Yeah, she has no competition whatsoever for that jersey. There is a young rider in Luxembourg called Nina Berton, who might take her crown in the future. But so far, Christine Majerus is still the champion of her country. Of course, she missed the entire cyclocross season due to a pretty bad crash at the end of the season. She needed surgery as well, but luckily she's back just in time for the Spring Classics. Also, Trek Segafredo have strengthened numbers in that first group to support Elisa Balsamo. We did see Taylor Wiles sadly crashing into that ditch. Hopefully her daughter Sequoia is not really consciously watching yet. Another crash here. Looks like one of the riders of the only rider of Movistar in that first group. Would there be Yannick?
It looks a bit like her, and yeah, they look like Chiara Consoni that had gone down as well, which was potentially the rider that UAE were working for. Now this car is right in the way of the chasing riders as well.
The other rider for Liv Racing Tech Find is Katia Ragusa, the Italian rider. Yeah, just touch wheels there.
You can just see, just because this road is so narrow, that if a rider goes down, it basically blocks the whole of the road there. So all of those riders behind it were impacted. So of course you never want to see riders go down, but this is one of the reasons that it's so important that you can try and stay at the front when you come into key points in the race, just in case there is a crash or something that would leave you behind. So now we're seeing the riders there really having to try and make up the distance on the climb, which is really not an ideal scenario for the riders behind.
First we take the cobbled side. This is the place where the national championships were. Good to see McFly there on the side of the road again, our French supporter of women's cycling. And then we go down for just a short while until we go back up again. But the visitor centre there and some VIPs as well. The organizer of this race, Danny, is 82 years old.
Big respect. Thanks very much for getting this road, this race on the road.
She's well respected within the peloton, and she's been doing this for, well, almost 30 years now, since her dad did it. And the most interesting thing about Femi van Issem, who we in Drenthe, where I'm from as well, call the Queen of Drenthe, is that the women's race is higher ranked than the men's race. The women's race has always been, well, at least in the last 15 to 20 years, more important to the organisers than the men's race tomorrow. You don't see that very often, do you?
No, you don't, but yeah, I think that obviously the history of this race has been really important within women's cycling, and it's great to see that it's getting the respect that it deserves.
Look at how strong Lorena Wiebes looks there at the front, as if this road is not rising 13-14%. We already saw last year in the CIMAC Ladies Tour, Danny, how she improved in the climbing, and that makes her on this course almost unbeatable.
Yeah, I mean, as we've said, that over the last few years we've seen how she's been able to develop as a rider and adding to her climbing skills as well. But I don't think we're going to be seeing her winning up mountain passes just yet. But yeah, of course, the speed that Lorena Wiebes has been quite phenomenal. Of course, you mentioned that earlier on in this year that she was beaten by her former teammate in Charlotte Kool, and it's almost a massive surprise when Lorena Wiebes is beaten in a sprint. So yeah, of course, she's shown that she's not undefeated this year, but yeah, of course, she still comes into this race as a real hot favourite, and particularly now that she's back in the front with multiple teammates there to support her.
Yeah, the SD Works team with sports director Anna van der Breggen. Lorena Wiebes starts with number 1. She won last year, of course. Misha Bredewold, Elena Cecchini, who's had a few great placings in the past as well. Christine Magirus, Femke Marcus, and Lonneke Uneke. So quite a young team. As we have attacks with Letizia Borghese following the moves there, Maud Rijnbeek as well, Lorena Wiebes herself, and for Canyon SRAM, I think it's Sarah Roy. Pretty sure it's Sarah Roy. Wiebes and Bastianelli very close together there. Bastianelli on the wheel of Wiebes. Gonzoni, of course, the other sprinter for the team, did go down in that little crash just at the base of the Vanberg. And there's a lot of water here on this side. The rest of the roads are pretty dry, but this is a part of the road, Danny, where there's still a lot of shadow. Well, looks like the attacking from the SD Works team is happening. They have 4 riders in this first group, and they try to make it a pretty hard race with 32 kilometers to go.
Yeah, I mean, SD Works have really got numbers to play with there, and that was closely followed by Anna Henderson, the British rider from Jumbo-Visma. We know how aggressively that Anna likes to ride, so she will always be up for a quality attack like that. So now we're starting to see a few more riders starting to come back into contact by the looks of it, and this type of attacking in the group is going to almost kind of collectively slow the group down. So when the riders attack and then sort of sit up and have this lull in the pace as we're seeing now, it's going to provide the opportunity for some more riders to just kind of come back into contention behind.
This is Fiva Georgi of the DSM team. She's probably waiting for the team car, which is, looks like we might have a little bit of a flat tyre there for Femke Marcus. She's testing that rear wheel, and Fiva Georgi's waiting for the team car here. Yeah, she played a pivotal role, of course, in the wins for Charlotte Kool in the UAE Tour. With DSM, she's one of the most experienced riders, Fiva. And really stepping up her game right now.
Absolutely, it's been phenomenal to see the progress that Fiva Georgi has made over the last few years. And you know, let's not forget, a couple of years ago in this race, she was on the attack with Alice Barnes, really lighting up the race, and then was part of that superb performance from Team DSM, where I think they had it was 4 riders in the top 8 that they had back in 2021, so really incredible. But yeah, Fiva is just really developing into that kind of all-round rider. We know that she has been the road captain for Team DSM for a number of years, despite her young age. But yeah, second as for the under 23 World Championships last year, and 10th back in Strada. So yeah, she's on some really good form. So hopefully this mechanical issue can be sorted out for her. But yeah, it looks like she has taken a tumble in today's race.
Yeah, this looks really difficult. She's now being overtaken by one of the chasing groups there. With Davy Kuipers here in her new colours of Phoenix de Koning.
Yeah, also covered in blood there as well. There's going to be a number of war wounds out there today. There's going to be a lot of riders that are very sore tomorrow.
Yeah, you always hate to see it, don't you? But the pace is slowing down just a little bit now with, well, she's the boss of the peloton, is she? Christine Magirus. Look at that. She's completely confident at the front of the bunch there, completely bossing the situation. And those riders are so important in cycling. They don't win all the time. A rider like Christine Magirus, she doesn't win a lot of races, but she's absolutely instrumental in others winning races. And Christine Magirus is a perfect example. Another example is somebody like Loretta Henson, who does a lot of work just before those final 25 kilometers. Yeah, I really like domestiques. It's a job that's, because we get more and more women cycling right now, Danny, it's more and more seen as well, the different roles in the teams.
Yeah, and it's those roles that are crucial to be able to get a teammate crossing the lines with their hands in the air. And you know, of course, it wouldn't be possible in a number of occasions without really good teammates to back you up. So the fact that we have so much live coverage now means that we're able to show the work of these great women and progress the sport on.
And also that there's a job for domestiques. You know, you don't have to hand over a list of results and first and third first and second and third places. You can also say, no, this is what I do for a living. I help others, and I take great pride in it. And I don't have the results or the palmares to really show for it, but yeah, I can earn my keep with helping
absolutely.
others.
I mean, if you're working for most of the year for your teammates, then ordinarily you wouldn't have results to show for it, particularly, you know, if you're doing a job early on in the race, then yeah, that is your job, is to work as hard as you can in the earlier part of the race. And you know, if you've done your job well, then, you know, technically speaking, you shouldn't get a result at the end of it. So yeah, it's a hard one to get your head around if you're new to cycling. That, you know, you could have the race of your life and not finish the race. It's quite a difficult one to kind of comprehend. And you know, what is nice about cycling though is that, you know, we do see some of those really loyal workers that are then kind of repaid later on in the year, and you know, kind of balancing it out a little bit, so they will sometimes get an opportunity to go for themselves. But yeah, it takes a lot to be a well-respected domestique.
It looks like it's a little bit silence before the storm as we speak. There's some feeding going on at the moment. People are taking it a little bit easier, although the speed is probably still around 40k an hour, so don't really call that easy. And it means that some riders do have the opportunity to come back to this first group, including some teammates for Marta Bastianelli and Chiara Consoni. I don't know if... Is this Chiara Consoni, by the way?
We saw her in that last crash. Yeah, I think it may well be. We just need to get another look in just to see if that was the Italian rider.
Yep. And just as we said that, Denny, the speed is going up again. You can see it in the shape of the peloton. It's not a close, tight-knit unit anymore. It's a little bit more stretched out. And of course, with all the crashes that happened so far, the most important thing is to stay at the front and not find yourself at the back and find your road blocked by crashed riders or crash yourself.
Yeah, and you know, the thing with this revamped circuit is that the Vanberg comes every 14 kilometres, so there's really not much time to relax. You know, we're heading round to the base of the climb again, so it feels like the rider's only just tackled it and we're going back again, so it makes it really quite relentless. And you know, what we were saying at the beginning of the programme being that it really changes, you know, the type of rider that this race suits. You know, going from, you know, some teams potentially bringing just that outright sprinters, that now we've got quite a punchy parkour, so tackling the Vanberg 6 times in 94 k's instead of 3 times in 156 kilometres. So it's a very different dynamic to the race, and one that the riders, you know, really have to pay attention.
Well, the first time we had the national championships here was in a COVID year in 2020, and because well, the lockdown rules were still quite strict, the lap was 7 kilometres. That was it. There was just no moment to recover whatsoever.
So it's just doing reps of the Vanberg.
It was interval. It was interval. It was 40-20s, but then for like 3 hours. Yeah, really bad. But yeah, now it's a bigger loop. This is the same loop that we are going to have more or less at the European Championships road race. The time trials will be in Emmen, which was our original starting place, where they also have a rubbish tip, Danny, which is 50 centimeters higher than this one. It's a little bit of a battle there going on.
Battle of the rubbish.
A rubbish battle. 5 of the 5 riders of ST Works in this first group just got confirmation that Elena Cicchini was indeed involved in that crash and had to abandon the race. So all 5 of the ST Works riders are here. It looks like also Phoenix de Koning are doing a really good job here with most of their riders in that first group, with the newly minted European champion on the track, that is, Maria Martins, part of the team. We have Evie Kuipers, Julie de Wilde, and this is our Asian continental champion, the rider from Vietnam, Thitat Nguyen. And I think I'm happy to see that she really made a step up. She returned. She's been, of course, with you on the Lotto Soudal, Lotto Belisol team. Yep. And then she was off the radar for a little bit, and now she returned with the Israel Premier Tech Roland team. What kind of rider is she, Danny?
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to see Tita back in the European peloton, because unfortunately she was one of the victims of the COVID pandemic. You know, back in 2020 she was on Lotto Soudal, but it was really difficult for her to come over to Europe in 2020, and with the almost kind of demise of Lotto Soudal in that setup, she was kind of left out of the European peloton. So it's really great that she's made the step up to the World Tour with Israel Premier Tech. She is a super fast finisher. I would write her off at your peril, but the results are a little bit hit and miss with Tita. So let's see what legs she's got on her today.
And the speed is going up yet again, which of course is not great news for those riders who were trying to come back. But we do know that, yeah, basically our three big favourites are in this first group. We have Elisa Balsamo still with the jacket on, so we don't see that gorgeous national tricolore jersey from Italy. We have Lorena Vivas, the European champion, and Bastianelli. And another attack here from the Canyon SRAM team.
Looks like Agnieszka Skolniak, the Polish rider, new signing for Canyon SRAM this year, and we know how successful she was last year. I think it was only one stage race that she took part in last year that she didn't win, so she's a very dangerous rider to be letting up the road, and the danger has been recognised by Team SD Works.
Most definitely, of course, they are the biggest representation in that first group. Look at how dirty the riders are at the moment. Yeah, she's a very exciting rider. Agnieszka Skalniak-Soszka is her full name. Yeah, and then of course it has to come from other teams. Looks like Femke Marcus is the rider going along. Of course, a fast finisher herself, but yeah, there will be no plan B on the SD Works team apart from Lorena Vivas. I don't think there is any other option, unless there's going to be a crash again.
Don't say that.
I don't want to. I'm not going to jinx. I'm not going to jinx anything.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really dangerous duo to be going up the road, and you can see that AG Insurance and Team Jumbo Visma are really trying to chase this one down, because these are two quality riders going up the road.
It's Julia Borgström there of AG Insurance. She was dropped, so she did manage to come back. She was just behind that crash. We have a very active Jumbo-Visma, Eleanor Backstedt. I think that Zoe is not in the race anymore. She was, of course, in that crash. She didn't look hurt, because the way she jumped across that ditch was true cyclocross style. That she wasn't hurt, but of course she was way back. But well, I wouldn't put it past her that she made her way back to this group. She's special.
She is indeed, and yeah, it was really great to see that she stepped up to the World Tour, and you know, obviously racing alongside her sister in the bunch, and Father Magnus in the team car as well. So yeah, it's the whole Backstedt clan out there today.
And 3 different teams as well. That is the most interesting thing. It's not like a family affair. They're all on 3 different teams, but I think the most important with Zoe Backstedt is that we don't put too much pressure on her and expect her to win a big race this year, or even next year or the year after. She's so young still, and the level in women's World Tour racing is so high. It's not an easy transition from junior racing to the women's World Tour level. So she's learning. She is increasing her engine that was already pretty big for an 18-year-old, but she is learning, and just don't expect, and don't write her off if she's not winning this year or next year. That's what I always tell people, because of course there was so much praise after her 4 world titles last year, but she basically starts from scratch again. She has to prove herself again from zero at this level.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive step up from junior racing, which, you know, often they're racing around sort of 60, 70 kilometres to stepping up into the World Tour. That, you know, today's race was going to be kicking on towards 160 kilometres. So you're over doubling the kilometres of racing. But I think, you know, with the development of the Women's World Tour and now seeing the designated development teams that are on their way, or, you know, very much in place now, that we're going to provide that almost sort of stepping stone for riders coming from the junior ranks. And, you know, slowly but surely we're getting the under 23 category for women. We have to wait a little bit longer before we get an outright race at the World Championships, but, you know, step by step the improvements are being made. So yeah, of course, as you mentioned, Zoe Baxter is a very special rider, and I think as long as we see a smile on Zoe's face, then she will be racing well. So yeah, looking forward to seeing her in other races to come this year.
Bloody socks here as well for Julie de Wilde, runner-up last year. Although I always confuse my Julies, the runner-up in Gent-Wevelgem. There's one very young Julie and one slightly older Julie. I think this is the young one. I always confuse the two. Never mind. We go back to the racing with HPH there, Human Powered Health as well. I do know that Marjolein van het Geloof is here. Alice Barnes, Lily Williams, of course. More crash. Oh, another crash. Oh.
Letizia Borghese. It looks like Raquel Barbieri as well.
Ugh.
It was just the fight coming in.
Oh,
Smulders, yeah. It was just the fight coming into the bottom of the Vanberg that you could see the lead-out trains almost really trying to position their key riders in at the base of the climb. Just getting a replay of it here. Yeah, just almost sort of swiping out on that corner by the looks of it.
Ooh, these women are tough, just standing up and continuing, but yeah, this is going to be impossible to come back from because the pace is full on now. Oh, that was... It's just a muddy side of the road, isn't it? If your wheel gets stuck in the side of the road, you just cannot come back from that. Unless you're Zoe Baxter.
Well, yeah, there's some severe cyclocross skills that are going on today, but I think that a lot of the problem here is you can see the mud on the side of the road. Now, when some of the cars come through, they end up having to drive in the mud, which just kind of sprays it up onto the road. And if you suddenly get just a slippery patch on the road, it takes one rider to go down and it can bring everyone down. So yeah, I think today is going to be a day to forget for a lot of these riders, but let's hope we can everyone else can stay safe coming into the finish.
I'm just amazed at how easy Lorena Wiebes keeps herself at the front of the bunch. She would make a fantastic track racer again, doing scratch and points races. But it's just effortless what she does there. It's really, really impressive. Yeah, and this is exactly what we were looking at. This is Skalniak, the rider was just on the attack. If you could get up in the mud there, that is of course deepened by all the car tyres. It's the end of it. Another rider who moved up to the front right now is Elisa Balsamo.
Yeah, and it's the first time that we've seen the Italian champion coming to the front, which is an ominous sign, isn't it?
I just want that bike, Danny. It's gorgeous. Look at that. It's like a Ferrari. It's Ferrari red. It's stunning. But she's moved to the front there. Lonneke Uneken leading. Balsamo. We have Wiebes. We have Anna Henderson, who's doing a really great race as well. She was one of the first attackers just before we had that crash. And I must also applaud Lotta Hentela, who also positions herself at the front of the bunch constantly, now with help of the youngster Maud Rijnbeek. It's really, it seems easy to stay at the front, but it actually takes a lot of energy to race at the front all the time.
Yeah, it does, and it's a constant battle for position. It's not just a case of getting to the front. You have to really try and defend your position and really keep putting the power down, because everyone wants to be at the front, and it becomes almost like a washing machine effect where riders just keep on passing on the outside, and you have to keep on almost asserting your position and really keeping the power down to try and stay at the front. You can see now the rider just taking this sort of 400-metre descent before the final kick up, which is another sort of 400 metres to go up. But you can just see how elongated the bunch becomes just on this small section of climb and descent. Look at that, how stretched out the bunch becomes. Again, just why it's so important that riders try and stay at the front, because if you're caught out at the back, you know, starting that climb, you might only be sort of 10-15 metres from the front, and then by the time that you hit the bottom of this descent, you're over 100 metres behind. You can see now that SD Works using the momentum to really try and launch an attack coming up this final section of the climb.
Looks like Misha Bredevold. We have Guazzini in this group as well. And yeah, Bastianelli is struggling. She is not in the first, among the first riders, is she? Done a lot of work, meaning that the dedicated sprinter here might actually be Chiara Conzoni. Was this the last time up the Vanberg, Danny? Or are we going once more?
Yeah, we have one more ascent of the Vanberg, so the final time coming up the climb will be with around 12 kilometres to go.
Really, really great work there by Anna Henderson, who yeah, is also one of these riders who stays at the front constantly. I did a lot of track cycling in the past, Danny, and one of these riders who actually could race at the back of the pack and still win was Katie Archibald. In points races, elimination races, she just kept quiet at the back of the field and then made her way to the front, which was of course a huge effort every time she did it. And that shows that staying at the front is always the easier option, but of course it also comes with risks and effort.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, rider that you mentioned, Katie Archibald, there's not many riders that have the same power as Katie, and we'll look forward to seeing her racing on the road again as FDJ are really trying to light this one up.
It was the last time up the Vam. You can see it's only 11 kilometers, so now we go straight to Hogeveen, meaning that the Vanberg didn't really make a big decision. We still have this big group, so we have to do it in the final 11 kilometers now, leading back to the original finish of the race in a town called Hogeveen. So SD Works are going to play it now, making sure that all the other riders will be tired, and even more tired, and Lorena Wiebes just following the wheels there. That's going to be their tactic, with strength in numbers.
Yeah, SD Works can really use the numbers that they have and know that Lorena Wiebes is there for the sprint as well. So this is something that SD Works really like to do, is kind of support the rider that they have up front. So seeing now, it looks like Maria Giulia Confaneri of Team Uno X.
Already a second place a couple of weeks ago it was only last week, in Le Semaine, when she followed Marta Bastianelli on the cobbles. Really smart move, but even smarter by Marta Bastianelli, who just sprinted from second wheel. There we have an attack from number 93, Danique Hengeveld. She does have the strength to do this, but 11 kilometers, just shy of 11 kilometers, is really a tough ask.
Yeah, it's a tough ask, and when you've got SD Works sat on your wheel, it's not going to be easy either. But you can see that all of these riders now really looking to have their team represented in the attacks that are flying up the road at the moment.
Yeah, and if you are a sprinter without any support from a teammate, of course, these are tense moments. You just hope that other teams will will catch attacking riders and stay and bide your time.
Yeah, I mean, every team is going to be in a completely different situation, and as we said before, that each team has had to kind of reassess the situation after we had that huge crash, work out what is going to be the best scenario for them to get a result, and it probably won't have been their plan A when they came into today's race. So yeah, we're just looking now as the riders just coming together. There's that lull in the pace, and where will the next attack come from?
That gives a little bit of hope to the riders coming back to the group, and then it goes again and it stretches out. It's like an accordion effect. So this is the time you really have to move up as much as you can.
But moving up on these narrow roads isn't too easy, so yeah, it's positioning throughout this race is so important, as you say.
Another fast finisher in that first group is Nina Kessler. I don't know if Letizia Paternoster is still part of this group of the Jayco Alula team. She was before, and Nina Kessler is, of course, a great master of a great bike skills she has, and it's, of course, a lot of experience on these kind of roads and these kind of races. Well, a final drink there for Noemi Ruk, giving her bottle to Carlijn Swinkels. And Henderson still has a jacket on, but of course they will play the card of Corinne Lebecki. As Rijnbeek there doing the work for Lotte Hentela. Really great work there by the youngster from Amsterdam, or just outside of Amsterdam actually. And these are the kind of races where these young riders really learn, and that is of course the purpose of the AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep team, to partner them with experienced riders like Ashley Molman, like Lotte Hentela, and doing this kind of work. And Hentela can only hope that ST Works will not attack and other teams will not attack. I don't think she matches the speed of Lorena Wiebes, but you never know what happens. Maybe we can go over the main sprinters in this group now, Danny. The main favourite must be Lorena Wiebes. We did see Shari Bossout involved in a crash. Maaike van der Duin was in this group, you said?
Yep, there she is, just in the middle of our screens now. She's supported by teammate Sarah Roy as well. So Canyon SRAM Racing have two riders in this group. As you said, we saw the Aniška Skolniak coming into problems the last time up the Valmberg. We don't know if she's made it back in. So that will be their sprint options. As you say, Lorena Wiebes comes in as a big favourite for this. We have some very fast finishers from Team UAE ADQ, which we've discussed previously. So we saw Marta Bestinelli, a former winner of this race, doing a lot of work earlier on. She's just at the bottom of our screen on the left hand side, but also in that group we had Cara Consoni. We have to see how she is after that crash that she had, but also the young rider of Gasparini. I'm really looking forward to seeing how she can get on in the sprint today. I think the dark horse there, though, that we did discuss earlier on could well be Thitat Nguyen, the Vietnamese rider. Let's just see how she gets on in this sprint. If she gets a free run at it, then she can be pretty rapid on her day.
I absolutely would love to see that. I would love to see that happen. Get a good top 10 in a World Tour race is, of course, very inspirational for Thitat Nguyen. Well, the bunch sprint seems inevitable now. Other names, of course, Balsamo is a name that we should take into account, and her lead-out rider Ilaria Sanguinetti is part of this group as well. So a big favourite, a fantastic sprint between Balsamo and Wiebes is something that I would sign up for. Other names, Katrien Swijnberg, she's done top 10s before in World Tour races already. Convalonieri might be in this group. Susanne Andersen is in this group as well. Some other fast riders, Elise Uyen of the DSM team. Of course, she is a fast finisher, very young still, 19 years old. I think we have mentioned most of the fast riders right now. Danny.
Just getting a look in on the right-hand side of the screen. Just caught a glimpse of Ariana Fidanza. She's had some very good results this year, winning over in Spain, and had some really fast finishes on her. She's another rider that's really gone from strength to strength this year, riding with the Ceratizit WNT Pro Cycling team. So they'll be looking after the interests of the Italian rider.
Yeah, she was on the attack in Omloop het Hageland, was caught on the attack with Alison Jackson, and then caught and still managed to sprint to 4th place. So that kind of shows you how strong she is. I think that EF Education must be the team, they only started with 5 riders here, must be the team that hits the hardest in this race, with Borghese, only the last rider in that first group, also crashing out. So I hope everything's okay with Backstead, Borghese, Jackson, Poitevin and Lawrence Stevens. There's a lot more racing coming up right now. Starting on Wednesday, Danny, when we will be back with Nokere Koersen.
Yeah, the racing is really coming thick and fast now. We're well into the spring campaign, and these riders will be matching up multiple times in the week.
Corinne Lebecki is of course a name we should also add, a former winner of the Tour of Flanders, Trofeo Binder. She's riding there in the colours of Team Jumbo-Visma. Of course a fast finisher as well. Guazzini might be a name that we haven't mentioned just yet, a fast finisher. But the most important 2 riders will be Balsamo and Wiebes. And I think Balsamo still has got her jacket on.
She's going stealth mode, isn't she?
Yeah, it's about 4 to 5 degrees right now, and now the sun's gone. The wind chill might be approaching 0 degrees, as we have some atmosphere here at the finish line. Look at that. But yeah, with about 5 kilometers to go, we lost the graphics right now, but with about 5 kilometers to go, I would like to see some racing instead of this very cheerful bunch of slightly older men. Yeah, there we go again. Paternoster, there she is, but she's a little bit further back here in the colours of Jaco Alula. Of course, also a fast finisher. So I think we have most of the sprinters that we highlighted before the race, Danny. I think we have most of them in that first group. This is a very tense moment. You have to be really, really focused, and everybody wants to be at the front, of course, and everybody wants to be on that wheel in the final of Lorena Wiebes. But look at the superiority there of Vesti Works, with Majerus, with Marcus, with Uneken, with Wiebes, and with Bredewold. The 5 riders there, nicely grouped together, and an attack coming up. This is, of course, a very, very difficult moment to really put on an attack. There's a lot of work being done there by AG Insurance Soudal Quickstep team. A work that maybe they should leave to SD Works, in my opinion. Sadly, we've lost our GPS. I think we have about 6 kilometers to go, roughly.
Yeah, I think it might even be a little bit less than that. So hopefully we will get the graphic coming back shortly. But with around 3.5 kilometres to go, we go straight over a roundabout there, and then it becomes a little bit more technical. So a few lefts and rights for the riders to contend with. But it looks like Danique Hengeveld again going on the attack. She's really determined to try and get away today. We've seen how this tactic has really worked out for her in the past. She's such a strong rider who really likes to go on the attack, so really trying to stamp her authority on this final few kilometres of Ronde van Drenthe.
On her wheel is Misha Bredewold, who of course has done a few solo attacks in her day, but her job has changed completely. It's Julia Bergström leading the peloton, Loretta Henson on her wheel. Yeah, Danique Hengeveld, yeah, it's really, really difficult to pull off a solo. We don't have a lot of wind, but yeah, with all these teams in the bunch really eager for a bunch sprint, it's going to be really, really hard for a rider like Danique Hengeveld. Some of the smaller teams here, Clara Lundmark, Anneke Dijkstra of the GT Crush Rebel Lee's team. Sadly, I haven't seen Audrey Cordon-Rago of the Save. cycling team. She might have been involved in that crash. Hopefully she's okay. She's been through enough for at least the next 5 years. Very, very tense at the moment as we approach the finish line. I'm looking for some markers to see if we already entered the town of Hoogeveen, which is one of the biggest cities of the province of Drenthe, which is one of the, well, I think it's the least populated province of the country. About 400,000 or 500,000 people live here out of the almost 17 million we have in the Netherlands. It's the best part of the country. It's where I'm from, Danny. It's beautiful. But most people leave because the jobs, the universities, everything is in the west of the country. But it's beautiful. And luckily, we have a race. There was a lot of doubt. There was a lot of conferring before the start. But we ended up with a race of 94 kilometers instead of 152. We did 6 laps over the Vanberg. And now we are on our way to the original finish line in Hoogeveen. Normally, we would do an extra lap to the south near Zuidwolde, but we're going to scrap that one, and we're just going to do one finish on the Alteveerstraat in Hoogeveen. The traditional finish, actually, of the Tour of Drenthe. The final kilometer, now we are approaching, this is about 3 kilometers out from the finish. That final kilometer, Danny, is there a lot of turns or is it a straight line?
The final kilometre is relatively straightforward, so with 500 metres they will take a left turn at a roundabout and then it is straight into the finish. So that final kilometre is pretty straightforward. In a couple of 100 metres time the road is just going to turn to the right. Here we go, just there. Nice and wide road coming into the finish though, so again, is this Danny Kengevel? She is not giving up the opportunity to try and go on the attack today, is she?
No, this is the only way she can actually win this race, but it's going to be futile with the entire SD Works brigade quickly following on her wheel. All 5 of them, look at that. This is a really royal lead-out train for the European champion, for Lorena Wiebes. On the left side, on her own, we have Lotte Hentelaar. She really can do this on her own. She doesn't really need a lead-out rider. We have Convalonieri coming to the front in the colours of Uno X. A lot of screaming going on. Looking for Lebecki there. We have Anna Henderson. Lebecki, I can't see her right now. We have Van het Geloof getting to the front there as well in the colours of Human Powered Health. And this is the final of this year's edition of the Ronde van Drenthe, edition 25. Will it be Lorena Wiebes for a triple, or will we see a surprise win? Looking for... Oh, it's an almost crash there on the right side of the road when one of the riders of UAE is trying to move to the fore. We also have Balsamo still with her jacket on, moving to the front now on the wheel of Ilaria Sanguinetti. Of course, her trusted lead-out rider. What a fantastic signing that is for Trek Segafredo. We have Lotte Hentelaar, we have Lorena Wiebes, we have Marjolein van het Geloof, Elisa Balsamo getting to the front, Sarah Roy getting to the front with Maaike van der Duin, most likely. Christine Majerus, look at the manoeuvring there through that corner on the industrial estate just outside of the city centre of Hoogeveen. All the main contenders are there on this really big roundabout, with Lorena Wiebes currently still on the wheel of 3 of her teammates. Moving to the front now is Hentelaar. She's trying to get to the wheel of Lorena Wiebes and finds it just in front of Sanguinetti. They're also moving to the front there with Convalonieri, also still with her jacket on. It's a cold climate for the Italians in the peloton right now, but most of them, of course, have arm warmers. I don't see any bare arms today as we go into the final. Have you seen the Flamme Rouge, Danny? I haven't yet.
No, so we're just around 1.2 kilometres to go now, so just approaching that final kilometre. You can hear all of the screaming within the bunch now as this is becoming a drag race to the finish. Team SD Works on the left, Team Uno X on the right.
It's really that washing machine effect, isn't it, at the moment, with getting to the front there with with 15 of the Jumbo-Visma team is Noemi Ruka. I don't see Corinne Lebecki at the moment. She's still a little bit further back, but so is Lorena Wiebes. It's Balsamo, Hentelaar and Wiebes all together, grouped together, of course, looking for that wheel of the lead-out riders. Final kilometre is coming up. Convalonieri currently with 2 riders in front of her. It looks like Confalonieri is doing the lead out for Susanne Andersen, possibly, Danny. This is a really solid lead out. We have Wiebes and Huntelaar shoulder to shoulder there, getting to the front with Balsamo a little bit further back on the wheel of Sanguinetti. There we are in sight of the Finnish cameras. This is that final turn that you were mentioning, the final 500 meters, and a really, really surprising long lead out there from Juno X with Anna Henderson on her wheel. And then moving to the front is Femke Marcus with Lorena Wiebes. Also Balsamo getting to the front on the left side. And Lorena Wiebes going through the middle as we speak, and already at the front with Balsamo a little bit boxed in, but a very, very superior win. Her third in a row for Lorena Wiebes. That was absolutely impressive. She was the big favourite, and she finished it off in style. There's no one who matches the speed of Lorena Wiebes in this peloton. It's really sad that we didn't have Sharon Cole here. It would have been nice.
That was quite a display from SD Worx, though, wasn't it? A really great sprint from Lorena Wiebes. It looked like Susanne Andersen coming in for second, and Maaike van der Down looked like she took the final spot on the podium there. The local rider from Assen making it onto the World Tour podium for the first time.
What a royal lead out that was. She still had 4 riders in front of her, Lorena Wiebes. She just had to... Well, she could have waited until the final 100 meters, actually. But her turn of speed is so, so impressive. And another win for SD Worx.
It's another one. A bit boring now, isn't it?
This is that final kilometer, and coming out of that turn, I think it's Confalonieri who takes a little bit of a gap right now on Anna Henderson. And then we look a little bit further back to see where Lorena Wiebes is actually coming from. With, I think it's Femke Lonneke Uneken doing her lead out there. Going past Juno X, and then my screen freezes. I don't know if it freezes with you, but yeah, it's a photo finish that you could just save the roll on that one. You don't need any photo finish.
Yeah, you can see there it was a clear win for the European champion Lorena Wiebes. Susanne Andersen coming in for second, Maaike van der Down for Canyon SRAM Racing in third, and former world champion Elisa Balsamo, stealth mode in her black black jacket, coming in for fourth.
Well, and now the most exciting part starts, the podium ceremony. Will there be office chairs today? Will there be toast makers? Will there be frying pans? It's so exciting what the prices will be.
Yeah, make yourself comfortable. It's going to be a long one, isn't it?
Yeah, there's also prizes for somebody who crossed a particular climb in 25th place. Yeah. You might not even be aware that you won a prize, but yeah.
I did have a chuckle when I was reading the technical guide and saw that, yeah, 25th place gets a prize. So you can imagine that, can't you? You roll in and then your Sonia comes running after you. No, you've got to go to the podium because you came 25th.
Well, what a day. This morning it was rather unsure whether we would have a race, but now we have a race. Great win by Lorena Wiebes, her third in a row. Susanne Andersen in second, Maaike van der Down, Elisa Balsamo, Confalonieri, Lotte Huntelaar, Guazzini, Carlijn Swinkels, Letizia Paternoster, and Anna Henderson in 10th place. That lead out by Confalonieri, she almost had it herself after that corner.
Yeah, it was quite an impressive lead out, wasn't it, by the Italian?
But there's just no way around Lorena Wiebes. And according to Pro Cycling Stats, this is win number 219 for SD Worx. Yeah, this is your third win in Drenthe. Can you describe what happened? I felt fantastic the entire race. I felt very strong. The last time up the Van Berg, I was always at the front. And I'm happy that I could finish it off like this. I know which fast riders were here and who I should look out for, but yeah, I trusted my sprint. I'm just happy to win again here.
Wat voor dag was dit voor jou? Want ja, een en al onzekerheid vanmorgen natuurlijk.
Yeah, there was a lot of uncertainty about this race this morning. What kind of day was it for you?
6 keer een Vanberg beklimmen.
Ja, ik vond het eigenlijk wel fijn.
Yeah, I liked the 6th time up Van Berg, but especially liked it that we had a race.
Ja, door te laten gaan en ik denk dat ze het heel goed hebben opgelost.
And I think that they really solved it well.
Dit seizoen al, hè? Deze zege.
Ja, klopt, ja.
Yeah, this is my third win of the season.
Een zwak moment in de seizoen?
Do you ever have a weak moment?
Ja, vast nog wel een keer gaan komen.
Yeah, I do think that it will come, but not at the moment.
Omstandigheden. Het was natuurlijk warrig vanmorgen allemaal, maar dan ga je onder deze omstandigheden koers. Heb je nog last gehad eigenlijk van dat er sneeuw in de
Did
bergen lag?
it bother you that there was snow on the side of the road? Yeah, there was a lot of water on the road, but I never found it a dangerous situation. The organisers did everything they could to clear the course, and they really did a good job. I think it was a safe race. Yeah, there will always be crashes in every race, but I think this was not any other than other races.
Er stond ook een kopgroep uit. Waar was jij op dat moment?
Nou, de kopgroep was toen al vooruit, maar wij
Yeah,
daarachter inderdaad.
I was in a second group after that crash.
Ik zat er gelukkig voor.
I was just ahead of that breakaway, but just ahead of that crash.
Dus ik hoop dat zij verder oké is.
Yeah, I hope that Elena is okay. She had to abandon the
Wiebes
race.
en Drenthe, dat is wel een lekkere combinatie aan het worden, hè?
Yeah, Lorena Wiebes and Drenthe is a good combo. And I hope that we can do the cobbles again next year, and I'll be back.
Ja, ik heb parcours al gezien weer over de Van
Yeah,
Berg.
and of course I'm going to defend my European jersey here on the Van Berg again.
Ja, ik heb een plekje daar om te starten. Dus,
And I do have a start place, of course, as the defending champion, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, can you describe your final?
Yeah, it's always hectic, but we took the control after the last time Van Berg, and yeah, the team positioned me really good, and yeah, I was in a good position into the last roundabout, and I was a bit doubting to go on the left or the right side, but at the end I found the space on the right, and I was able to sprint fully.
This was the 3rd time you win this race. Why does this race fit you that well?
Yeah, it's a race in the Netherlands, so that's what I like. And yeah, normally the cobbles I also really like, but this time I think I finally like the Van Berg.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Danny, that's going to be really interesting. Of course, we are going to return there for the European Championships, and yeah, she has a start place there. Of course, she's the defending champion. She doesn't have to go to the workings of being selected in the Dutch national team. She will be there, and she loves the Van Berg, and she wants to defend that title and just come back next year and race the cobbles again. The 3rd win in a row for Lorena Wiebes. Her 3rd of the season, one in UAE Tour, one in Omloop het Hageland, and now in Drenthe. We will see her back on Wednesday in Okerkoersen, and that's also when you will hear Danny Christmas and myself, José Bain, back here on Eurosport, GCN and Discovery. Well, Danny, the expected outcome, but what do you take away from this race?
Well, first off, I'm just so glad that we were able to have a race today, and I think it's testament to the organisation and everyone that's involved with putting on this race and making it a good one, and one that we will certainly remember. Of course, we hope that everyone that was involved in that huge crash just as we came on air is okay. We haven't had too much in the way of updates as to the conditions of the riders, so we'll be looking out for that in the coming days. But yeah, of course, seeing the race all coming back together and the dominance of SD Worx in that front group was really quite impressive. But some real standout performances from a number of other riders as well. Great to see Suzanne Anderson back on the podium of the World Tour, and Maaike van der Daan, the young Dutch rider, making it onto the World Tour podium for the first time.
Well, this was that small breakaway that, according to Lorena Wiebes, was already up the road before that crash. And then she found herself in that second group. Everything came back together. Luckily, no big crashes. Yeah, sadly, there will be some broken bones from this race, but we will read the reactions afterwards on who went to hospital and who came away unscathed. And I hope to see, well, I think much of this peloton back on Wednesday in Nokerkoers, where Lorena Wiebes also won before. It's a perfect finish for her. So we might see the exact same outcome, but we're looking forward to a very exciting race there in Flanders. Looks like some adverse weather there on the horizon. Tomorrow we do return here to Drenthe, by the way, when the men race the Ronde van Drenthe, the 75th edition already, and I will be your host then again here on our digital channels, GCN Plus, Discovery Plus, and of course Eurosport. So there's a lot of racing going on tomorrow, but this one's a nice one as well, although they completely changed the course with, after the last time up the Van Berg, about 80 kilometers of more or less flat roads. So inevitable bunch sprint, possibly, but we will see it tomorrow. If you don't have time to watch it live, you can always watch it on the digital platforms, of course, when there's no racing, like Monday or Tuesday.
There's not many days when there aren't racing now, are there? It's brilliant. Cycling
They
season is well underway.
They never give us a day off, Jenny.
You can rest in November.
That is absolutely true. And then there's like 3 months of nothing.
Preparation, Jose. There's preparation to be done.
Always. And riding myself. That's also important. Whether it's outside or inside on Zwift, there's always riding to be done. But isn't it great that we have so much bike racing, so much women's cycling on our channels to enjoy? Again today, and Wednesday we will be back. All the World Tour races will be here on our digital platforms, hopefully next weekend as well in Binder. I think it's still a little bit unsure whether we have the rights for that one. Fingers crossed we will secure those rights, because Binder, Danny, is absolutely one of my favorite races in the world.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Binder next weekend. Always provide some really aggressive racing. We're going back to Italy into the punchy climbs, so really looking forward to watching that one.
It's one of the oldest women's races, isn't it? Tour of Flanders, Binder, and this one of the oldest races on the calendar, right ahead of the developments we see right now with Roubaix, with the Tour de France Femmes, with all the cobbled classics. That woman there in that jacket, she's the initiator of the women's race, and she's really held in high regard in the women's peloton, Femi van Issen.
Yeah, and it's, people like this that we really need in the sport that really help to pave the way and push forward with the organisation of these great races. And, as we keep saying, that, full respect to the organisation and everyone involved today that was able to make the race happen, because it was looking very doubtful even this morning that this race would take place. So we're very grateful that it did, and I'm sure all of the riders that potentially stayed upright are also very glad that it happened as well, because a lot of effort goes in, not just from the organisation obviously, but all of the riders and the teams. Of course they were already at the hotels in Drenthe ready to race, so for a race to be cancelled at the last minute would have been a bit of a disaster. So we are very grateful that the race was able to take place today.
hope we get some podium ceremonies. That would be really nice. It's always one of the things to look forward to in most interesting podium prizes. But I must applaud what UNOX did here as well. Fantastic lead out done by Diederiksen there with Convalonieri and Susanne Andersen. And of course, they're quite a new team on the block, UNOX, but this was stellar work by them, really matching what SD Works did. And going through that corner with Convalonieri, she almost lost Andersen there on her wheel.
Yeah, we saw what great form Maria Giulia Confaneri was in back in Semen last week, where she finished in second place, but was the real instigator of the final breakaway. But yeah, just look at the gap that she was opening up there. Anna Henderson released a bike length, 2 bike lengths, and almost for a moment there we thought that she might be able to hang on for it. But of course, Lorena Wiebes was coming at her really fast, and there wasn't a contest in the end, was there?
No, most definitely not. But yeah, just like you said, good to see Susanne Andersen back at the highest level. She had a few tougher moments in her career. One of the young riders who really came onto the stage with a bang. One of the most promising juniors of her generation, showing that it's so hard to make the step up to elite level for young riders, even if you are part of the world best, like Susanne Andersen was. It's also great that Lorena Wiebes said in her interview that she hopes the cobbles return next year. She really likes a tough race, doesn't she?
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people that would see Lorena Wiebes as an outright sprinter, that this kind of demonstrates just how strong she is as a rider as well, that she wants to have the cobble, she likes having the punchy climbs as well, which for her competitors is perhaps a bit demoralising as well, because you know that she's going to be contesting the finish of some of the harder one-day races as well.
She can actually win Flanders, for example. Why not? She is going to be 24 in 6 days. She's going to be 24, I repeat, in 6 days. This is the first year she's not part of the junior classification anymore. And this was win number 62.
Wow.
Yeah. Her first win was all the way back in 2018 when she won the Zeven Dorpen Omloop in Aalburg, when she was still, there was her first year actually, coming out from junior. And Lorena Wiebes is not a rider who started when she was 8 years old. She first did gymnastics, I think, and all sorts of other sports. And she didn't really like bike riding in the beginning. And then she started winning, and then she liked it a little bit better.
It's funny that. It becomes a bit more fun when you're winning, isn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. She's won a lot in the UK, of course, in the Prudential Ride London. She's won Tour of Yorkshire. She has won that clean sweep, of course, in Ride London. I think it was last year or the year before.
Yeah, last year.
Last year.
All 3 stages there. Quite impressive.
And after that, straight after that, 3 stages in the Women's Tour as well. She won the entire Baloise Ladies Tour, apart from stage 3B that she did not win. The Tour de France Femmes, of course, that opening stage on Champs-Élysées was something that she really worked for, get that first yellow jersey. And yeah, this is her 3rd win of the season already after the 2nd stage in the UAE Tour. And the Kruijwinkelhof Omloop van het Hageland the day after Omloop het Nieuwsblad. So win number 3, and I think win number 4 is not that far off. Her program will be at Nokere Koersen. That is Wednesday. Brugge de Panne on the 23rd. Gent-Wevelgem, of course. And then It's still a little bit up in the air, but I
Maaike
think
van
she
der
will
Duin,
be
derde worden in je eigen
in
ronde van
Flanders.
Drenthe. Hoe is
Yeah,
dat?
third in your
echt,
own Ronde van Drenthe. How is that? Yeah, this is a dream coming true. And if you told me before, I would have signed up for this.
Wel gehoopt, maar niet gelijk
I had
verwacht.
hoped it, but I
En ik
didn't
voelde
really
me gewoon de
expected
hele
it
dag super
straight away.
sterk. En
And I felt so
vanochtend
strong
toen
the
het
entire
rondje werd
day.
veranderd na 6 keer
And this morning when they
Vanberg,
changed the
of 7,
course
6 keer, dacht ik,
with
oké,
6
dit kan
times up
positief
Vanberg.
uitwerken, maar misschien ook
And I
net
think,
de
yeah,
verkeerde
this
kant
could be
opvallen.
positive for me, but
Ik voelde
also
me supergoed en,
negative, but
toen
I
die
felt
laatste
so
keer
good all
Vanberg
day.
gewoon bij de eerste 10 omdraaide, dacht ik, oké.
And when I
nu
was
is het
amongst the
gewoon all in
first
voor de
10
sprint.
up the
En,
Vanberg the last
toen de
time, I
laatste
knew
meters, en
all
dacht
out
ik
for
ook,
the
ja,
sprint.
hoe mooi zal
And
het
that
zijn om
final
het eerste
meters,
podium voor de
how
ploeg te
great
geven
it,
als-
I thought to myself,
als
how
eerste
great
jaar
it was
bij de
to
ploeg. En, ja,
to
supermooi.
give a podium to the team I
Onzekerheid van
first year
vanmorgen, wat
with
deed
this
dat
team.
met je?
Yeah, the uncertainty this morning, what this does to you, she says. Quite matter of factly, it didn't do anything to me. I knew I could do this. My friends are here, my family is here. And the race is always the race.
Geen keien in de Ronde van Drenthe, moet ik zeggen. Wel veel van. Past jou dat beter dan een gewone Ronde van Drenthe?
Nou, dat denk ik niet. Ik
I
denk
don't
dat
think this is
eigenlijk,
better or
allebei de
worse for me than a
scenario's
normal
goed
Ronde
passen.
van Drenthe. I think
Met de vorm die ik als
both are
vandaag
fine.
voelde, was dit gewoon
Yeah,
goed
with the
genoeg.
form I had
Vorige
today,
week nog op de
this
baan
was
volgens mij
good
aan het
enough.
trainen in Apeldoorn. Hè? En dan dit alweer. Het maakt jou helemaal niks uit wat voor ondergrond, of wel?
Nou, dat is juist superleuk. Vorige week
Yeah, I
was het heel
like
slecht
the
weer.
mix of
Dus ik heb
riding
me
on the
3 dagen
track.
helemaal,
And last week it was bad
kapot getraind
weather,
op de
so
baan.
I
Toen
trained
kunnen
on the
rusten na
track
deze
in
dag dit
Apeldoorn
weekend toe. En dat heeft goed uitgepakt.
to
Ik
work
denk dat het
towards
geheim
this
er is. Je
weekend.
moet op de baan trainen.
Misschien.
Yeah, maybe
you.
that's the secret, says the interviewer. Yeah, of course, she had a fantastic European Championships as well, Maaike van der Duin. Well, there is Femi van Issem with, I think, at least 10 jerseys with the different classifications. But she's a little bit insecure, Danny, about the future of the race. There's a lot of environmental rules, for example. She had to change the original course due to woodpeckers on the course, due to badgers nesting. I don't know if badgers nest, but like a badger, living.
Set.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of environmental, there's a lot of, we saw some farmers protest as well about nitrogen deposition here in the north and basically the entire Netherlands. You have to hand in at least 80-page environmental report before you can organize a race. And I do think we have our, either it's bread baking machines or the air fryers.
Well, I'm looking at the smart TV as well. That's could go on the bus, couldn't it?
I think last year Lisa Klein won a very small bike, which is funny because the Dutch word for small is klein.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was. But this is the jersey for the winner, and sponsored by Miron. And yeah, we're waiting, of course, for the riders. There might be an Easter egg as well, you know, a chocolate Easter egg involved. And I think it's a bread baking machine. Maybe an air fryer is not a great plan. But we have had office chairs and bread baking machines and toast makers, and it's, yeah. How do you take an office chair back home when you fly in?
It's not going to go in the hand luggage, is it?
It's most definitely. It's probably going to stay on the bus, or yeah, I don't know where you just put it on Craigslist, you know, on eBay. Ronde van Drenthe office chair. But a TV is a good price. I think last year Lorena Wiebes won a mountain bike. I remember.
Oh, nice.
That's a good price.
I'm sure she's probably already got a mountain bike, but, you know, another one won't do any harm, will it?
I think one phone call to Specialized and she'll have a gravel bike, a mountain bike, a track bike, and all the bikes that she actually wants. Maybe an e-bike as well.
I don't think Lorena Wiebes needs an e-bike. I think that's
No.
a little bit unfair, to be honest. Give other
An e-
people a chance, eh?
No, if you did go to the shops or something, you go to shops on your e-bike.
Save
My
her
mum's
legs.
got... Well, a lot of young kids have e-bikes in the Netherlands, Danny, because there's a lot of kids who have to do like 10, 15 kilometers to school, and they take an e-bike instead of the bus or the train. So you see a lot of young people on e-bikes here. It's not only the pensioners and my mother. It's just that turn of speed for Lorena Wiebes. Look at that. Her cadence is so much higher than, for example, Susanne Andersen.
bij ons achter hebben we zojuist even gesproken met Susanne Andersen. Je kan zich overigens nog de Assen Jeugdtour heel goed herinneren. En ook Donneke Unicus heeft gereden. Dat is de dame die vandaag de sprint was.
Yeah, great. The speaker is making a reference to the Assen Jeugdtour, which is a 5-day event for riders from 8 to 18 years old, taking place the first week of August, including also this year the Col du Vam for the youngsters. I don't think we will let the 8 and 9-year-olds go up, and especially down the Col du Vam, but from 10 years they should be able to do it. We have time trials, we have cobbles, 5 days of racing, and a lot of these riders actually in the Women's Pro Peloton have come through the ranks of the Jeugdtour in Assen, including Maaike van der Duin, who already won when she was 8 years old. And the cobbled stage that we always have is basically going past her grandmother's house. So there's always a big banner, and she did almost all editions, and she won her last one as a last year junior as well, winning the yellow jersey. But she already won as a Cat 1 racer, which is 8 years old in the Netherlands. So a lot of these racers did. But there they are, our podium. At least 2 of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, meine Damen und Herren. Madame, Monsieur. The official award ceremony of the Miron's UCI Women's World Tour.
But also for a youth race like a Jeugdtour Assen, it's becoming more and more difficult to organise a race in the Netherlands. We have the best riders in the world, Danny, but we don't have a cycling culture. It's not like Belgium, where people would just clear the roads and have a million races from junior women to elites. I think, yeah, it's Amstel Gold Race, it's this race. And Borselen for women, that's it. While in Belgium they have like 10,000 races. Well, with a clean face, Maaike van der Duin. And the congrats from Femi in a nice flower arrangement. And indeed, Susanne Andersen is one of those riders I saw in Assen Jeugdtour for many years. Lorena Wiebes never did it because she started quite late. But look at that screen, that's so pro. We have quite a young podium, Danny. Susanne Andersen is 24. Lorena Wiebes is 23 and Maaike van der Duin is 21.
Yeah. It's looking good for the future, isn't it?
Future is always bright. Especially in women's cycling, where we are doing so great. And I think that both of these riders will say in their press statements that it's not a shame to lose against Lorena Wiebes. Yeah, here we are again, says Lorena Wiebes. We're back. And there is that blue jersey of the main sponsor. I think it's violet because the main sponsor is a producer of violet glass. Not violent, but violet. So purple. And it's so important to have these main sponsors. Look at that. Laurel. Absolutely great stuff, this.
Prachtige lauwerkrans bij. Dat gewend is om allerlei dingen te dragen hier als prijs. We gaan uiteraard luisteren naar onze nationale volkslied, het Wilhelmus, voor de winnares van de editie 2023 van de Miron's UCI Women's World Ronde van Drenthe voor Lorena Wiebes.
There we go. There is a pretty impressive and our national anthem.
gaan onze handen warm klappen voor
De koning van Hispanje heb ik altijd geëerd. The King of Spain I have always held in honor. One of the oldest national anthems in the world, stemming from the 80-year war in the 17th century. Danny.
Wow.
Yep.
Always learn something new when I'm commentating with you, Joost.